how could I be that strong, independent woman? You kept encouraging me to move forward. A new idea.
Jan, come on. That's what I love to hear.
So I co-owned Crown Bank Dental alongside my husband, Mehdi.
But even high performers reach out for support.
Leading teams or working with teams from across the country or even internationally.
Because coaching used to be, how are you doing?
If you had have asked me 1 year ago, would I have done a half Ironman triathlon? I probably would have laughed.
So, welcome. We have Janine Doughty, co-owner of Crown Bank Dental Practice. It's wonderful to have you here on the Leading Role podcast.
Oh, thank you, Liz. Thank you very much. I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have today.
Oh, yeah, awesome. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. You're a busy lady. So, yeah, it's great to have you here. I can't wait for people to hear about your transformation on the high performance coaching program, because you are a formidable lady. And since I met, our paths crossed in 2024.
Yeah.
And we've been working together throughout 2024 into 25. And it's just amazing to hear all the things that you've achieved, how we've, looked at different skills. And I think let's just jump straight in, because this is all about sharing transformations, your learnings. I know that your story and what you've put in to this program and into your life in general, your career, will resonate with the listeners. So can you tell me what was happening for you that led you to reach out and even think about going on the high performance coaching program with me?
Yeah, that's a great question, Liz. And I think, share with the listeners. I know we don't often share our age, but I'm coming up on 40 next year.
Well,
okay, so
wow. I wish I'd have looked like you looked at 40. Crikey,
Thanks,
you look amazing.
So looking back over the last decade, I think, we see our lives in chunks, don't we? And we met towards the latter part of this kind of decade of my life. And there'd been so much change. Between 30 and coming up on 40, my life had changed radically. I'd made huge career decisions. I had 2 children. I'd finished a PhD and changed from being a full-time academic to being a co-owner of a business and trying to juggle that alongside academia and being a new mum. And when we started our coaching sessions in 2024, I would say I was quite lost. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how to balance things. I was on a treadmill, constantly feeling like I either had to be doing the best mothering I could, or the best for the dental practice, or the best for my academic side of things. And obviously we'll talk a little bit more about what each of those things looks like and give you a little bit more insight into my career. But that was what led me to coaching. I wanted to understand, how can I be a good mother? How can I be a strong and independent woman as a role model for my children? And also, what does my future career look like now? I'm coming into maybe the last kind of 20, 25 years of that career, and where do I want it to go?
Yeah. Crikey, you had got so much going on, hadn't you, at the time? I mean, just those life events on their own is a lot to deal with. At the age of 39, 2 young children, your own businesses. So, we need to let the listeners know that you are a local lady. So you are the owner of Crown Bank Dental, based in Sandbach and in Congleton, and you practice in Congleton, which looks incredible. And, your PhD at the university, the work that you were doing there, an awful lot. I mean, what would a normal day look like for you juggling all of that?
A lot going on. So what I would say is, I co-owned Crown Bank Dental alongside my husband, Mehdi, and we bring very different skill sets to the table. Mm-hmm. So I think when people think of what traditionally a dentist might be doing day to day, it looks like being in a surgery and seeing patients across the day and doing various different treatments. Yeah. My week is certainly very different to that. Yeah. So in terms of the practice side of things, I may be doing marketing meetings, business meetings, strategizing around the practice, appraisals. So there's a whole host of different activities that are going on around practice growth and business development. But then on the academic side, my week looks quite different. So I try to just about have a sort of 50-50 balance of working within the practice and also working in academia. And the academic side of things is much more research driven. I'm teaching, I'm lecturing. I have 3 PhD students at the minute who I'm supervising. So very much that traditional academic kind of role that happens within a university. So that's based at the University of Liverpool. So I try and especially recently since we've been doing the work together, I try and see how that academic side can feed into the business side. And I think really in the recent months, maybe the last sort of 6 months or so, I've been starting to see how the sorts of things I'm doing in academia, which was leading teams or working with teams from across the country or even internationally, working with data and understanding data and making sense of that, that has really come into play.
You are a data lady, aren't you?
Yeah, I love data.
You're
I love a good
brilliant with
spreadsheet.
data. I know. I love it.
And really understanding that doesn't have to live in isolation. All those skills that I'd gained in academia from my PhD, from even as a teacher, an educator, standing up and public speaking, they all have a place in business, in entrepreneurialism, and you can bring them in to measure the success of a business or communicate with staff at a meeting, for example.
Yeah.
So no skills were lost, let's say, in the transition.
Yeah.
And I've really come to see that. I think the two were very separate for me. And now as they're coming together, I'm finding my feet a lot more in both areas.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll talk about the successes because this is why I'm dead keen for everybody to hear your story, because you're clearly a very driven lady to achieve everything that you have in life so far, and juggling all of these life events and the things that are changing. I really want everybody to hear the outcomes and the successes that you've had from the programme. But before we do that, I think it's important to also recognise that you are a high performer. And when I say that, I say it because I see consistently how you show up and you put the work in, and you've done that all of your life to get to where you have. But even high performers reach out for support. So you can be in fixed and growth mindsets, and you were definitely in growth because you reached out. So, Janine, we were talking about the structure of the programme, and that's what drew you. And I agree, you definitely need to have a plan, because you do see a lot of coaches who do fabulous online courses. But I don't know if you're anything like me. I've recently joined a marketing programme, and I've got access to all of this free resource, but I haven't got a one-to-one coach. And so I'm like, well, where do I go? I don't know where to start, and nobody's holding me accountable.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference why we're getting the successes that you've achieved because of that approach, that accountability. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it breaks it down into manageable chunks. When you're busy and you don't have a lot of headspace, the last thing you want to have to do is to, it's great to have a library, I'm sure, of 100 resources, but which one do you open first? And how do you prioritize them? So I think with having each session targeted, and then at the end you have a worksheet and a resource, and then we will always check in with each other at the end of that session. How long do you feel that you'd need in order to make a meaningful difference? If we meet again in a week, is that enough time? Do we need to have 2 weeks so that I can action that thing, whatever it is we've said in terms of like the action points that have come off the back of the meeting, and also doing using the resources fully? I think having that flexibility, we've really made it work, because there are some things that are quite small, and I think, let's check in by next week because I will have made quite a big leap by then.
Yeah.
But some things, they just take a little bit longer to roll out.
Yeah.
I'm meeting maybe sort of 2 weeks later, then I can have that focus for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm doing and I have my resource. But yeah, if I was probably sent away, even if I was sent away, to be honest, for 5 resources, I might think it's too much for me.
You feel overwhelmed, don't you, with the best of intentions. And I think it's the accountability. So I've got a business coach, and I know I've agreed some actions, and I know by the time I meet her again, I need to put those actions into place. And that just helps to drive you forward, doesn't it? Yeah. That accountability, because life just is, everybody's after your time, aren't they? So it isn't that you don't want to do the actions. It's just like that accountability just helps to drive you forward, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think so. And knowing that I've got a session coming up with yourself, I'm thinking, have I done the actions that I did last session? What am I going to feed back to Liz when we do meet? So for me, accountability works really well. I like that. It gives me a laser focus. So each time that we come to a session, finish a session, and then before the next one, that just gives me something that I need to work on. And it means that I'm using my time well, and I'm doing the things we've identified as being important. And then when other things might come into the email inbox, as they do, I'm able to say, actually, that's not my priority. Liz and I have identified what my priorities are for this next week or 2 weeks, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on. So it's meant that I can make decisions much better. And we've been focusing a lot on decision making recently, whether that's decision making for myself personally or whether that's decision making in a business context, being able to make decisions, prioritize, understand whether something is worthwhile doing, so important, isn't it?
Oh, and leadership.
Yeah.
How much you think about? I read an article recently by the Harvard Business Review, and they reckon that leaders have to make something like 3,000 decisions in a day. I know that sounds crazy, but the micro decisions that you have to make. And so, we've got decisions now as a module in the programme. And I know the framework that we've gone through is really helping you both in life and the business as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been invaluable. And it's been something that then you can adapt as well. So thinking about these decision-making processes I'm doing for myself, for choices in my own life, but then also thinking, well, how do I make decisions in the business? Or how can I work collaboratively with the management team so that we're all on the same page about why we're making a decision and why we're making the choices for whether that's for the growth of the business, the staff, or whether it's the patient experience. We can think about what's going to work for all three of those priority areas. Yeah. So it's really helped. It's really helped me to get clarity, and it's really helped me to feel much more confident in the decisions that I am making then.
What in particular about the programme was it that got you to enrol and to sign up?
I think one of the things that I found really intriguing about the programme, and your programme specifically, thinking about the high performance program that we did initially, was I really loved the structure. I could see week on week what we were going to do, how we were going to build, how we were going to think about different things. So that there was space always to deal with any issues that emerged, but that we would be looking forward to things. So for example, courage, that was a really big one for me. I knew that week was coming up. Okay, let's have a think about what's holding me back. What things am I feeling really fearful about? Exploring things that you might not have otherwise brought to the surface and really challenging yourself. Yeah. So I like to see that. I personally like a structure. It's the same way that I would go into any meeting and I would want an agenda. Yeah. I don't want to go and waste time. I think when you own a business, you're doing a lot of things, juggling a lot of plates, you need to have things laid out and structured. And that's what I liked about the sessions. I knew what was going to happen, what the topic would be. At the end, we'd have some work that I could do in my own time. And for me, that gave me an understanding of the value of that programme and where I would be at the end of it.
That's brilliant from my perspective to hear, because I think when you're lost, and what you said, you were lost, you need to know how you're going to get out of feeling that way, don't you? And after all the years of coaching, many clients in the early days used to say, but I don't know what I don't know. Yeah. And I really latched on to, I need to be providing more here. We do need a structure. It isn't, because coaching used to be, how are you doing? Yeah. And what does good look like for you? And, we need more in today's world, don't we? I'm really passionate about this, that we do need more when we are looking to get from where you are now to where you want to be. Give me a structure, give me a plan so I can see where I'm heading. So personally, thank God that's what resonated with you, because that's what it is all about. And can you remember, we started off looking at your goals, didn't we?
Yeah.
And so what were your goals? What was it that you wanted to achieve?
So I remember, I'm thinking way back to the start now, and reflecting on what we did together. We were looking through some of the different areas, thinking about, your energy, clarity, courage, some of these factors, and thinking about where I was at the time. And I remember very much my scores were around about 4, 5, quite low. And my goals that I was setting for myself at the time was I wanted to move on. I'd been in quite a different place in the early part of my 30s. I'd been doing what's called specialty training. So I was training to be a specialist in an area of dentistry called special care dentistry. So I work with anxious patients with learning disabilities. And I'd taken a step away from that so that I could move into a space of business and also be an entrepreneurial academic. And there was a lot hanging over me around that. I couldn't quite let go of that status. There's a lot of hierarchy in hospitals. There's a lot of hierarchy in medical professions.
I remember you saying that to me, yeah.
And I felt it was really holding me back from moving on. So I wanted to put that into perspective. I wanted to do a pivot and develop a new identity that wasn't that I was going to become a specialist and a consultant, but that, in fact, I was going to be an entrepreneurial academic. And what did that look like? And what did that mean for me? And also, I think, in seeing myself as a really strong and independent woman, if I was going to move into a business space where at that time my husband was at the helm and he was the sole owner and principal of the practice, and I was going to move into the business with him, how could I be that strong, independent woman and also working alongside my husband and not feeling like the wife of the boss, so to speak? So there was a lot of issues that had come up around that, and a lot of our conversations and subsequently our sessions were around how I could create that new identity, what my values were. And we thought about, right at the start, what were the 3 words that would not necessarily best describe me at the time, but would describe how I wanted to show up.
Yeah.
And I remember those words. I wanted to be grounded, so consistent and grounded. I want to be warm as well. And I also wanted to be self-assured. So those were the 3 kind of key points that I wanted to do. And I still reflect on them now and think to myself, am I still being that authentic version of me, that best self, showing up, warm, generosity to others, a generosity of spirit, consistent, so not this stop-start energy that leads to burnout, but how can I be more consistent and measured over time, make commitments and be accountable to myself? So certainly I could see some of those goals coming. I wanted to be more of that best version of myself. And that's what has been a thread throughout all the sessions that we've done together, really, isn't it? It's coming back to that. Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? And how is that going to bring something beneficial for the business, for the world, in my academic work what does that look like?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is such a big transition as well, isn't it? Because I don't know the dentistry world, and you've really enlightened me into the industry and what a fantastic industry it is. You've had to, the years of studying and working to get to where you are is incredible. And there's a theme here, guys. I will keep emphasising what a formidable woman that we have in today's podcast, because you will leave feeling inspired. So you were talking about those 3 words. This is what's really important. Everybody's goals are individual, but we put them front and centre. And then we really get you clear on the type of leader that you want to be. Who do you want to be as a mum? How do you want to be known as a wife? How do you want to be known as an employer? And a owner in the business with your husband. You didn't just want to be seen as the wife of Medi. I totally get that. Unless we do the basics and really focus on your values and get that groundwork in, you can't really move forward, because it does help you as we move through, doesn't it? But when we think of that transition that you had to make, I think it's really important that you know who you are, because then that helps to navigate you to make that jump. Yeah, because it does. But don't you find in industries, even like dentistry, what I think is important is that there is a hierarchy, and we do worry about how we're perceived when we're making that pivot.
Absolutely. I was just thinking about that myself, Liz. And I was thinking, we passively absorb so much information from the society around us. Yeah. It shapes our views. It shapes how we think about ourselves. I'm sure I'm not alone in being the only person who thinks about what other people might be thinking about me. So you're almost imagining through the eyes of others, how do I appear to them? Do I come across as competent? Do I come across as, conscientious? And certainly that's one of the things that I have felt I've been able to move away from and to accept. Not everybody might understand the type of role that I've got. Not everybody might understand the way that my week is scheduled and the sort of things I'm doing from day to day, but that is okay. And it's absolutely all right to be trailblazing. It's all right to be doing something different. And it's all right to be thinking differently. And I can see people, I can see role models, people like Dr. Louise Newsom, she's a GP. She has a private GP clinic that centres around menopause, but she's also actively engaged in advocating for women and also in researching around menopause. So to me, having other women in this space like that, who are both entrepreneurial and academic at the same time, it gives me that role model. It gives me that person on the horizon that I'm aspiring towards and thinking, I'm not alone on this journey. There may not be that many other people or women specifically that I'm encountering who have the same kind of duality of role, but they are there, and what are they doing and how are they making things work for themselves and balancing families alongside it as well.
Yeah, and it's great that you've been able to navigate the mindset to not let what people think of you hold you back from what you want to do. And I always say this is when clients talking about the goals, they'll say, well, I want to go traveling, but I also want to be renovating my house, so to speak. And I'm like, well, how can you do both?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be one or the other. And that's called a powerful question. How can you transition from where you are in your career whilst becoming more involved in the two dental practices? And that's how you can make the transition. That takes a lot of courage to do that as well, by the way. And I know we've talked about courage. It takes a lot of courage to make this transition in your career. And courage themes in the programme. What were your favourite sessions from the programme?
So there are so many different points at the programme at which I found either there was a light bulb moment or there was a shift in my thinking that allowed me to move forward in a way I felt was obstructed previously. But some of the tools that we have gone through in the session, such as the productivity planner, the session itself was absolutely so useful, and it's something I come back to time and time again. So it wasn't that it was a one-off session and at the end of the session, that you've got all the value out of it. I go back to that productivity planner every time I have a new idea.
Jan, come on. That's what I love to hear. Brilliant.
So every time I have a new idea. And although we're talking about predominantly the world of work, I was looking at the productivity planner and also the action indicator assessment, which to give those who are not familiar with the action indicator assessment a flavour of what it is, it's really running through a series of questions to understand whether an action is congruent with your current self, your present self, your future self, the resources you have available, the support you have around you to help you to make a decision as to whether it's the right time to move on or not, or to move forward with an idea. So I use those two together to decide whether or not I should be doing a half Ironman. So it was quite a big deal for me. I've been a casual exerciser before, and I thought I really want to take on something that is challenging to me. But can I do that right now? And I was able to feed that into the action indicator, and I could see, okay, this is congruent with my future self. I do right now have the support from my family and the resources to do this. And I put it through, it came out, okay, this is something that you could consider moving forward with. Had the space and time to do that. And as soon as I started putting that through the planner, I was then able to see what my next steps were. I needed to get in touch with a coach. I needed to speak to somebody who knew about nutrition. And I could see all the simple, straightforward steps that I would need to do in order to make this successful. I would need to schedule and structure my training, and I'd need to have a level of commitment towards that. So all of these things had to play out in order for me to train for an Ironman, which I did, half Ironman, which I did do in May of this year.
Congratulations. I mean, just tell us what did you have to do to achieve that?
Yeah. So in order to do that, so it was towards the end of May, and I'd been training since around about September 2024. So I'd had a good 8-9 months lead up of training.
Was it swimming and
it was
running?
Swimming. So it was a 2-kilometre open water swim. It was a 90-kilometre bike, and then a half marathon just to finish it off.
Oh,
in case you weren't hiding off after the first two, and I think I saw it as something so huge, like climbing Mount Everest. How am I ever going to be able to do this? And one of the things we talked about, Liz, and we constantly came back to it, is, well, what do the next 6 to 12 months look like? And if I know in May 2025 I'm going to be doing a half Ironman triathlon event, then what do I need to do in each of the months prior? I need to be doing my big rides on the weekends. In order to do those, I'm going to have to ask the grandparents to come in and look after the kids for a few hours. Or I'm going to be finding opportunities to go for a run. And when's that going to happen? What time am I going to have to wake up in the morning to do that? And what am I going to need to eat to fuel that? So there was a lot of small decisions, and there was no one big decision. I think that's what I realised. There was no one big thing to do in order to get there. It was small and consistent improvements to my physical health, my mental resilience, doing things I'd never done before, allowing myself to rest in a way that I hadn't allowed myself to rest before, because I needed to recover mentally and physically. And then on the day, I'd said to myself, if I can get to the end of this triathlon event between 8-9 hours, I'll be really chuffed with myself. And I came in at 6.5 hours, Liz.
Oh my God.
I took an hour and a half off that time.
I need to lie down. Listening to this. That's incredible. Honestly, and given where you're at, you still got your girls to look after, you still got your work commitments and navigating your role within the practice, which were all your goals as well, this work-life balance. And you did that on top.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I think also it's good to have done that, and it's a great life experience. But then I go back again and I'm thinking about, what action shall I do next?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, maybe I'll do a full Ironman for my 40th birthday. And actually I ran it through, and I ran through all the questions, and I thought, it doesn't score highly enough now for me to spend the next year training for an Ironman. It's not right now. That's not to say that it won't be right for my 45th birthday or even my 50th. But right now, at this time, at this age, with my girls and what they need of me, the business and my academia and what that requires of me, I know I've done a thing. I'm really proud of myself. And I can pause, step back and start to enjoy exercise in a different way.
It's just as powerful saying no, isn't it?
It is.
Not right now. Rather than just thinking, right, I've got to do something else, because we do jump into that, don't we? All right, I've done that, right, what next? But can I just take a moment just to ask you, how did it feel for you crossing that finish line in that time?
Oh, yeah. It was amazing. And right at the end, my husband put both the girls over the barriers, and they held my hand, and we all ran across the finish line together. Everybody's cheering. They're part of that. And one of my driving things, as you well know, Liz, is I want to be a role model for my girls. I want to show them what strong looks like, physically, mentally, to show them if you make up your mind to do something, you can do it, even if it's hard and even if it means some sacrifices. And now they're saying to me, "Oh, Mummy, when I'm older, I want to do triathlon.
Really? Oh,
I want to ride my bike and do triathlon."
What does that feel like for you to hear them say that?
Oh, amazing. It's priceless. It's absolutely priceless. Yeah, I feel that, I'm showing up for them as a mum in lots of different ways. I'm showing up for them one-to-one, giving them time, giving them my presence, making space for that, but also showing them what I'm doing and how I'm behaving day to day. That gives them an indication maybe of how they might want to do things in the future, or different. We're always open to that as well. But it makes me feel like I'm doing my best for them, the best I can with what I've got
100%,
right now.
100%. And I think so. Thank you for sharing what was great. The key ones for you out of the program, because again, not only do I want to make sure you've got a plan and a vision and your goals are front and centre in every session, but you've got that supporting. So, I want you to learn new strategies, and I can't throw everything into a 1 hour coaching session. So you have that additional resource, don't you? So you talked about the productivity planner and the action indicator assessment, and every session you get a worksheet where you've got those resources. And I know that you keep going back to them and reminding yourself of them, because again, we all need to learn new skills, new concepts, new strategies. And I know, fast forward now into 2025, we're really focusing on leadership skills, and just giving you more options for you to use in everyday life. So let's look at the successes then. What would you say have been your biggest successes since we've been working together?
I would say, at the start of each of them, so whether that was the charge program, the high performance program, we always assess where I'm starting from. And as with any of your clients, you assess where they're starting from, and then looking at that change, looking at those scores afterwards. And when I can see that change in scores, I understand that I've grown. Things that perhaps I would have found difficult a year ago, I'm now finding much easier. And I feel like I'm living with much more integrity, that I feel that how I am going about my day to day, what I am choosing to allow into my schedule, into my calendar, are things that are meaningful to me. So I think if I'd have looked at what I was doing academically a year ago, I was saying yes to anything and everything that was coming my way. Whereas now I'm extremely judicious about the choices that I'm making. I'm very conscious about what I want to be representing. So for myself, for example, I am really passionate about why dentistry is a feminist issue. And people might say, well, dentistry affects men and women. Of course it does. It affects everybody. But it is something that I'm working on specifically around the issues related to women, whether that's pregnancy, that's menopause, thinking about differences in access. So working on projects, for example, with the Women's Institute at the moment around women's issues around access and caring responsibilities.
Can you tell us, would you like to tell us a bit about that project, Jan?
Yeah, sure. So this is a huge national survey of nearly 1,000 members of the WI, and the Dental Health Matters Project asks them specifically about issues of access to dentistry and also about their caring responsibilities. And what we found was that almost universally across the respondents who were women, they were mentioning issues of getting access, for example, triggering them to not have access to an NHS dentist or to be able to find it for their children or dependents, like parents as well. Whether that's mother-in-law, father-in-law, or their own parents, women were tasked then with this burden, not just to find themselves a dentist, but usually also a husband, children, and older generations. So we could see that there was really a lot falling to the shoulders of women. And that sort of broad outlook on women is one perspective, but I do work with women in different ways as well. So, for example, I go out into the community and I've recently been doing interviews with women who are involved in sex work. And that has been very eye-opening in understanding the different challenges that they face and that they experience in that very vulnerable position. Issues around trauma, so facial trauma from domestic abuse, or impact of drugs on their mouth, for example, and the generational cycles of this.
I never think of this. I love the awareness that you bring into these topics. It's just something that we wouldn't even consider. So I know that this has been a specific project that's you really felt passionate about. So what are you looking to achieve working with these ladies? I
think for me, the future would be to find ways to better accommodate women. We do have some things. So, for example, you can access the NHS while you're pregnant for free. You can get your dental care. But this is a major issue in that women can't find a dentist to access while they're pregnant, for example. Yeah. So it's thinking about the system that we work in as well. Yeah. What can we do in terms of these findings then to working with organisations like the British Dental Association, working with government, lobbying government as well for thinking about women's oral health and the needs of women specifically, and also thinking about issues and informing women about what changes in their body, what changes during pregnancy, what changes during menopause, and making women more aware of that as well. Yeah. So there's something there about awareness raising, there's something there about policy and thinking about how policies can change, and then increasing knowledge of people to look after their own health and well-being at those crucial times in our lives as women.
Yeah. And do you think now that you're very clear, going back to the tools that you've had now, is it actually got you razor focused on, time is precious, isn't it? So it feels like what you're saying is you really now focused on the things that are important to you in all aspects of your life.
Yeah. Very much so. And I think what I've also had to realise and reconcile with myself is that there is value within a dental business that doesn't necessarily have to be hands-on clinical dentistry. That could be the strategy, it could be the growth, the practice as well. It could be thinking about some of those things that are at that level where we're thinking about patient experience, how can we be trusted and loved as a practice? And what do we need to do for our patients to have that most amazing experience? What does our team need to do to feel safe in the workplace? Like, what needs to happen for our team? So these are all of value. And it was me changing my perspective. You know, I'd been a very heavily clinical dentist, and now I'm moving into this different frame where I'm thinking there is value also to strategy and entrepreneurialism and considering business growth as well as clinical dentistry.
So how long have you been in Congleton now, the new practice?
We opened in January. So it was when we first went to see it, it was a bank. It was the Barclays Bank.
I remember. I used to go and cash a little bit, put a little bit of money in the account on the rare occasion.
Yeah. And we went in and we saw the building. We thought, God, you know, it's got so much exposure. People on the high street can see the building. Yeah. It's a fantastic building. And we went in, and I will never forget us going in, because we went in with a 6-month-old baby. My husband was wearing the sling. He had our then 6-month-old daughter in the sling, and we went into the bank to go and look around. It was fully operational at the time. So we had to have all of our ID and everything to get into the building and have a look around. And once we'd had a look around, we just thought this would be absolutely perfect. And so we spent the best part of the next 12 to 18 months then making that practice absolutely designed for purpose. So in every way, in terms of how it feels when you walk through the door, the experience you get when you go into the surgeries, the latest technology, we've just worked meticulously to make sure that the practice is all singing or dancing. So after all that process, we opened the doors in January. We had the mayor come and we cut the red ribbon. So it was fantastic. The mayor came and sat down in one of the chairs. So she experienced it for herself.
Brilliant. Did she? That's so good.
It was wonderful.
I love that.
It was so nice. And it's really nice to be able to show off the features that we've put in. So we have like televisions on the ceiling as well as the wall. So when you lie back, you can watch the TV. You know, things are really comfortable, really nice lighting. So I think it's lovely then for people to be able to come in. We've had lots of open events now as well. So we opened at the Food and Drink Festival. We opened at Pride, and we'll be opening at the Christmas Lights as well.
Do you know, I love how you have really immersed yourself into the Congleton community, because I know you've touched on in the coaching sessions, and we've talked about your values, and you're like, Liz, community's really big for me. And, you know, we talked about, well, how you're going to get into the community, and then you'd come back and you'd talk about all the wonderful things that you were doing, like the colouring books, and, you know, inviting people to come in and have a look round. I think, obviously, Congleton's got a great community, but you have really immersed yourself. It's like you've been here for years. I can't believe it's actually only January that you've opened.
Yeah. I think that's been such a big focus for us, and it is as a business as a whole. And I think we've been established in Sandbach for many years now. And so Maddie and myself have had the practice for around 8 years in Sandbach. So we're well established there in the community. But here in Congleton, we wanted to come and we wanted to get to know people and people to know us, because I don't know, maybe this is just what I think. I think people always think, you know, who are these dentists in this practice? You know, are dentists a bit of a strange bunch? We're not always the most popular for everybody. People are a bit nervous to come see us, aren't they?
You've definitely opened my eyes. As somebody that used to be petrified of the dentist, you have really opened my eyes to the whole industry, and given me a better understanding. And I don't feel that apprehension now going into the dentist. And I think you just got to keep sharing that story, because it does resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it makes a difference when people can see you when they're not coming in for treatment. So, for example, we did Sandbach Pride just a couple of weeks ago, and we decorated a trolley for the Sandbach parade. So we'd decorated it with teeth and different things, and we were pushing it through, and we had a stall at the parade. We had kids doing colouring books and inviting people to just come and chat to us, and they can see, all right, these, you know, scary dentist folk are not so scary
human,
at all.
Exactly.
We're human. We're happy to have a chat, answer any questions, and opening the doors at Congleton. You know, we have got that wonderful space. We're right out onto the high street, and when people are coming by for things like Food and Drink Festival, it gives us a lovely opportunity to engage, to chat, to invite people in, to have a look around, have a nosy. I mean, who doesn't love having a nosy, right?
Well, exactly.
I
wouldn't mind having a nosy around a dentist, I must admit, because the only view I ever see is looking up at the lights or the TV screen. So I totally, it's brilliant that you're inviting people in. So, so many successes, half Ironman, navigating that transition from in your career to a place that you feel comfortable in now. And hopefully you don't feel lost like you did in 2024. Yeah. You've got that, where you're going, and you've also got the tools on how to get there. If somebody's listening to this now as a leader, because leadership is very lonely, we think we've got to have all the answers. And when you're feeling lost, it can show up in so many different ways. I mean, actually, something I haven't asked you is, how was it showing up for you when you were feeling lost? How would you describe that for you? What was the experience?
I think it was, for me, ruminating and thinking over and over again on my own, oh, there must be a solution to this, and I'd go over the same series of things over and over again. Well, what can I do differently? I would keep thinking over and over, and the same problem would keep coming back. Mm-hmm. And what happened when we worked together was then you kept encouraging me to move forward, like move beyond those current limitations. Can you think about things differently? What does life look like if you're not thinking about what other people are thinking about your situation? Or what are your priorities? How do you want to show up? And so those sort of ruminating thoughts and cyclical thoughts, they kind of diminished. They fell into the background, and I started to look ahead. I started to look ahead very clearly, 6 months, 12 months. What does that look like 6 months and 12 months from now, to show up for my family consistently throughout that time, to show up in the business, to show up academically, to look after my health and well-being. So it very much moved me on. So I would say, if you are stuck in a cycle of thinking, if you are thinking you can't find the answers and you don't know how to get them, then don't hesitate to think about going to coaching, because you will challenge yourself. You will move beyond what you thought you were capable of. If you had have asked me 1 year ago, would I have done a half Ironman triathlon? I probably would have laughed. It wasn't on my radar.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't on my radar. And through challenging my fears, going through our courage worksheets, why am I fearful? What have I got to lose with this? What happens if I don't finish? Am I frightened of not finishing this triathlon? What does that mean? What are those things that were holding me back? A fear of failure, a fear of being embarrassed, a fear of trying and getting it wrong, or not succeeding, even though I've tried. So I think it just gave me permission to say it's okay to be scared. Yeah. It's also okay not to know the answers, but it's okay to give it a try and to do the best with what you've got available to you right now.
Yeah.
And I think throughout that, I've got more permission to be myself, more permission to be the most authentic version of myself, and then to make decisions from that place, which is a place of groundedness and self-assuredness and warmth as well. Yeah. Those three key words.
Those 3 key words that we do in the clarity session. Yeah. Just so for context, just for the listeners, there's I think it's session 2, we do clarity, and I ask for you to think of 3 words that will describe the best of you. And, those are your 3 words, which it's good to hear that cause sometimes they can change, by the way, but yours have stayed the same. And it's, when you're describing them, if anybody's watching this on YouTube, they will see the look in Jan's face when you can see what it means to her. And that's why it's important to have those 3 words. So what would you say to somebody that is perhaps where you were then last year? What would you say to them about maybe reaching out for support?
Yeah, it's easy for me to say this from where I am now, because I know the value of the programme and what we've achieved together, Liz. But I would say, don't hesitate. I would say, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, but I can only speak from my perspective. If you are a woman, if you are trying to juggle a career alongside children, and you want to be present with your children, you want to balance all these different plates that you're spinning, I would say go to coaching, spend time with Liz, and start to work out what's really important to you. Which of those plates do you want to keep, and which are you happy to let drop? And also to let go of some expectations. I would say Liz will help you to let go of expectations such as, for example, what does society say about a working mum? Okay, maybe there are some ideas around not working full time. And what I found is that I was putting those false beliefs on myself. Okay, I'm not going to have enough time with my children if I work full time. But actually what I found is as my work became more meaningful, more rewarding, and I became less busy with clutter, I had more headspace for my children. So the time that we did spend together was quality. So it didn't matter if I had a whole day off work to spend, if I was thinking about something else and not engaging with my children in a meaningful and present way. Whereas now, I'm so much more present with them. I have so much more energy. I'm so engaged with them. And they get this brilliant mom who's got bags of time for them and real headspace that makes them feel seen and understood. And that's what's always been so important to me, hasn't it? So I would say if you are in my position where I was a year ago and you're confused about what to do next, everything feels overwhelming and it's too much, think about coaching. The value is I cannot express how much value you can get from coaching.
Yeah. Oh no, that's fantastic to hear. And do you know what's interesting as well? That what the coaching is about is pulling out your strengths. So I have actually done a LinkedIn post for today where it's about pulling out and getting you to refocus and ask empowering questions on a daily basis about what you are really good at. And when we talk about courage and confidence, sometimes it can bleed. If we have a limiting belief, it can bleed into other areas of our life that it shouldn't need to. Because actually you haven't got where you are today by luck. It's by hard work and putting that time, years of studying and working hard and giving up, perhaps spending time with friends and family to get you to where you want to be. And what the program highlights is actually where you have got strengths and getting you to live more from your strengths by giving you empowering questions that you can ask of yourself on a daily basis. Because my goodness, you've just got so much strength. So Jan, honestly, there will be so many women out there that are going to be listening to you now in leadership, juggling family, businesses and life that hopefully you will have inspired them. I have no doubt about that. I'd love to have you back in about 6 months' time. Let's hear how it's going in Congleton, how the business is growing, how your goals are growing. I feel like we need to have you back just to share more of what you are learning along the way.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that, Liz. And if any of your listeners have any questions, any things that they want to ask, whether that's about dentistry or anything else, they're welcome to share those questions. I'd be happy to answer questions and come and speak with you again.
Oh, that's amazing. I will leave your contact details in the link in the description of the podcast if anybody wants to reach out. Or where else can they contact you?
Best way, you can get in touch with me through Instagram.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you, Jan.
Thanks, Liz.
It'd be brilliant if you liked the episode. If you could leave a review, that would really help my channel out. And I will see you next time.